Welcome to the Graybeard Show on YouTube. Today, we are going to be talking about the invisible man. So I want to talk to a specific person today, not everyone watching, a specific person, the man who provides for everyone around him and feels genuinely seen by nobody. The man who carries the weight of his family, his business, his responsibilities, who is the answer to every question in every room he walks into, and who cannot remember the last time anyone asks how he was actually doing. And if someone did ask, he'd say, "I'm fine," because that's the only language he was ever taught. I see you, and today we're going to talk about what that is actually costing you. There is a particular species of loneliness that lives inside the man who carries everything in life. And I call it a particular species because it doesn't look like what most people think loneliness looks like. It doesn't look like isolation. It doesn't look like someone sitting alone in a quiet room with nowhere to go. It looks like a man surrounded by people, a full house, a full calendar, a full set of responsibilities, and a quiet, persistent emptiness underneath all of it that he has learned to function around so well that most days he forgets it's there. That man is not dramatic about it. He doesn't complain. He handles what needs to be handled, shows up where he needs to show up, and performs the version of himself that the people around him have come to depend on. And in the spaces between those performances, in the car on the way home, in the gym at 5 a.m., in the 15 minutes before he falls asleep, he sits with something he doesn't have words for, a weight, a distance, a version of himself that he buried so far down in the name of being strong that he's not entirely sure it's still even there. I know that man. I've been that man. And I want to spend some time today pulling back the curtain on something that I think is one of the most under-addressed realities of adult male life. The cost of carrying everything for everyone while receiving almost nothing in return. Does that feel like you? Does that resonate in your life? See, I've been married to my high school sweetheart for over 32 years. I have 4 sons. I've built businesses, carried financial pressure, navigated seasons of real devastation and real victory. And for a significant portion of that journey, I operated the way I had been wired to operate, as the provider, the problem solver, the one who could hold it all together so everyone else could hold themselves together. And here's what I didn't understand for a long, long time about that operating mode. It is not inherently noble. The provision, the protection, the showing up, those things are good. Those things matter. But when the posture underneath them is, I must never need anything. I must never show weakness. I must be the answer and never the question. That, my friends, is not strength. That is a coping mechanism that looks like strength from the outside. And it has an end point. I reached mine. Not in a dramatic moment, but in a slow accumulation of distance. Distance from my own feelings. Distance from my wife, even while we were in the same room. Distance from a version of myself that used to have access to things like joy and wonder and genuine rest. I had been performing strength for so long that I had lost contact with the actual person underneath that performance. The thing that began to change it for me was not a breakthrough or a crisis. It was actually a conversation, a single conversation where someone I trusted asked me a question I wasn't prepared for. How, Sean, are you actually doing? Not how's business or how's the family, but me personally, underneath all of it. How am I doing? And I didn't have an answer. And the fact that I didn't have an answer, that I had been so thoroughly focused outward for so long that I had lost the ability to answer a basic question about my own interior life, that was the moment I understood something I needed to change. I want to address something that I know some of the men watching this are thinking right now, because I know how we're wired. The thought goes something like this. This is fine for some people, but I don't have the luxury of dealing with my feelings. I have real responsibilities, real pressures. I can't afford to slow down and get emotional about things. People are counting on me. Yeah, I said that too. I hear it. And I want to push back on it firmly, because that thought, as reasonable as it sounds, is exactly the thought that keeps men in the invisible place for decades. You cannot sustain what you are not replenishing. That is not a philosophical statement. It is a mechanical one. You are not a machine. You are a human being with an interior life that requires maintenance, the same way your body requires food and sleep and exercise. Neglect the interior long enough and it doesn't just get quieter. It starts breaking down in ways that affect everyone around you, including the exact people you are trying so hard to protect, trying to keep it all together. The anger that shows up in places it has no business being. The emotional distance your wife feels but can't name. The kids who are watching you perform strength and learning that this is what men do. Perform and endure and never ask for anything. The physical toll of carrying stress that was never processed, never released, never given anywhere to go. Being seen is not weakness. Needing something is not weakness. The man who can say, I am struggling with this and I need support, is not less strong than the man who carries it in silence. He is, in almost every measurable way, stronger because he has the self-awareness to know his limits and the courage to act honestly within them. The invisible man is not invisible because he doesn't matter. He is invisible because he decided somewhere along the way, probably in response to something he experienced or was taught, that making himself visible was too dangerous, that being seen meant being vulnerable, that being vulnerable meant being a target. And so he disappeared inside that role, and the role ate him alive quietly over years. Here's what I want to ask you to do, and I want you to actually do it, not just nod at the screen and move on with your day. Find one person this week, one person in your life, a friend, a mentor, your spouse, a brother, a pastor, whoever it is, and have a real conversation with them. Not about business, not about logistics, about you, about how you are actually doing underneath the surface of what you present to the world every day. I know that sounds simple. For a lot of men watching this, it will be one of the hardest things they do this month, because the muscle for that kind of honesty has atrophied from years of disuse. It will feel awkward. It may feel like you're doing something wrong, something unbefitting of the version of yourself you have maintained for so long. Do it anyway. Start small if you have to. You don't have to unpack 30 years in one conversation, but start the conversation. Crack the door. Let someone see the real version of you, not the performed version, and find out what happens when you do. My guess, based on experience, is that what happens is this: relief. The kind of relief that has been waiting patiently behind the performance for longer than you realized. The kind that remedies your life. Maybe even the kind that reminds you there is a living person underneath all that competence and responsibility. The kind that makes everything you carry feel just slightly, and then maybe significantly, lighter. The world needs men who carry weight. It always has. That is not going to change. But the world also needs men who are whole, not just functional, men whose strength comes from a full interior life, not from a hollowed out one that has learned to perform fullness convincingly. You are allowed to be seen. You are allowed to need something. You are allowed to be a human being and not just a provider, a protector, a performer of strength. Those roles are real and they matter, but they are not the sum total of who you are. There is a man underneath the role. Go find him. He has been waiting for you to come back for a long time. If you're a man who needed this today, or if you know one, share this video. This is the conversation most platforms aren't willing to have, and it needs to reach more people. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. I'm going deep on purpose, identity, faith, and what it actually means to be a man worth following. Drop a comment below. When was the last time someone asked you how you were actually really doing? And you told the truth. When was the last time? I want to hear from you. And if this conversation left you wanting more, to go even deeper, the Graybeard Show podcast is available on all major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and everywhere else you listen. Head to graybeardmentoring.com for additional resources, free tools, and everything else we have available to help you build the life and business you were meant to have. Links are below.